Hi, this is Beezy, and it is December 25th, 2018, and Keegan and I are rambling by the river. You get a little snow on the snow line, I think you can see up there in the picture. And on this day, that represents and has represented oh so many different things for so many beings, and now represents different things for different beings as they shift and change and there's expansion. I wanted to ramble a bit about, you could call it reconstruction, you could call it reconfiguration, you could call it rebirth of something, you could call it resurrection. There's a word I think that's more apt, and I can't tell you what it is because it hasn't popped into my head yet, but I have a sense that there's a word that's a renewal without the re part, because it really isn't so much about taking the old, re-shifting, re-changing, sawing a little piece off here, sanding a little there, new coat of paint sort of a thing. It's revealing the true energetic nature and character underneath it. And so it's there for the very first time. We're seeing and encountering it for the very first time. We're creating with it. We're subject to it, whatever that it is, whether it's a house under reconstruction, a life, a contract, a job, relationship. It doesn't really matter. They're all metaphors. They're all related. But anyways, that's what I wanted to ramble a bit about, because it's an inside job, and what everyone is doing is unique to each singularity. Yet there's a beautiful unity, symmetry, flow in the things that touch each other, that are, have different pieces that are together, and that kind of highlight, the oblique angles that come, that are kind of highlight and show the differences between those. So it's a big symphony each one of us is creating, and as we flow and shift with each other, whether it's someone that we know well or someone that we just encounter in part of our recreating of things, that we play some notes from each other's symphony and we incorporate that into our own. And one of the things that highlights is that it's unique to each one of us, and it's our own journey, and you may have many symphonies going on within each other, different sections in the galactic orchestral movements of your own, maybe of a partner, it may be of someone you're needing to work with, it may be if you're doing construction on a home, the job boss of that, the subs that are doing the carpeting or the painting or whatever it is, and because that's a metaphor for how they're putting their work and their energy out in the world right this moment, and part of the tools of their path, of their expansion process. You're actually blending for moments different acts within the music, a piece of music. So different stanzas, different, maybe there's a blending of music, and there's a solo by one kind of instrument, and then maybe there's a duet of another kind of instrument, and that blends with yours. And so none of it is going to look exactly the same for anyone, number one. There are, as you're playing that, as you're the conductor and you're playing the instruments and you're bringing the different sounds forward, to use that metaphor, there will be, here's the thing, there may be instruments within the different orchestras that are blending for different points, where someone is tuned at 432 hertz and someone else is, is tuned at 444 hertz. See Simon's wonderful Christmas special to actually hear the difference in those. And so from a linear language, you could say, well, you just have to deal with it, because that's, how those notes are being played. That's how the flow and the way that they have themselves tuned energetically and with their tools. You could also play with it in a slightly different way in the recreating or the fill in that word that I haven't made up yet. As you hear those sounds, and if you are one that has your orchestra and all of your instruments, and you have a myriad more instruments than maybe a smaller orchestra, and yours are all tuned to 432 hertz, you could, when you hear those, or when that section comes in from a subcontractor, in this metaphor, say, oh, well, that's just the way it is, I gotta go play with it. Or you could notice the differences and let your notes and your tuning set the baseline, and let those others come in and make your notes play with them in a way that is, perhaps at first that you'll notice there's a little bit of jarring, there's a little bit of discordance in the melodies and the way that the music blends together. But since you're holding to your bass, your line of that, in a fluid way, you'll find that you'll shift and change the notes that are coming from the other beings that you're playing with in this moment. And that's a good example where, yet again, of the Trinity, where you're creating. It's not this or that. It's not, well, hey, I'm expanding to this, but I gotta deal with that over there, and it's my job, or it's just the way it is, or it's my partner, or any of the excuses that there are. You could go, this is what I'm expanding to. That's what that being is. And in a relationship, again, whether in this case we're talking about construction, in that relationship we can create a third. That's a new way to do business. That's a new way to do it. So what you're creating is that energetic envelope is the third. And so your experience of it and moving through it and getting the job done, and the other subs' experience of it and getting the job done is going to be different, yes. But it's a revelation in how that occurs, and that the way each holds and experiences that new thing is a fun encounter. It's a fun creation. It's for you, if you're consciously on the awakening path, it's an eye-opener. It's, okay. And it's an empowering, it's a playing, it's a kicking it up a notch, and bam, another notch. And for the others who may not have consciously listened to that, have consciously tuned into that, they notice something's different, and they go, So they see how this isn't like any other job site. This isn't, where the job boss may be like other job sites, but components within that are not. And that is a revealing and an awakening on that level, which then, if they allow and if they choose, because it's an inside job, it's up to each one of us, how that flows through. So I wanted to ramble just a bit about that everybody is untouched by what is going on. The extent to how they show that, reveal that, allow you or others external to them to glimpse that will be different. Part of that difference will depend on how much they're allowing, themselves to reveal to them in the shirt about that. And it's a dance, that we're all going through. One thing that might be really helpful to play with is that as you go through this, there's nothing more important than standing in the knowing of who you are and playing with that from a wholehearted and a holding of yourself, and a passionate, joyous, sublimely delicious way of that's the most important thing. And yes, you're doing other things that are important. Yes, you're doing other things that you have a caring for and a passion of, or an intensity and a commitment to. That's not diminishing any of those things. But you are agreeing demonstrably that this connection, this holding in within you, is the most important. And as you, moment by moment, and it may be 152 million times in a moment, in a day, it depends. As you stay committed to that and you play with it, you will realize that it begets more of that it begets noticeable shifts in the subcontractors or noticeable shifts in the other beings. And it becomes more and more evident that what you are scripting, because now you are consciously scripting things moment by moment by moment, you can watch things change. You can watch a problem with a sub that's being laid out in the moment shift and change. All of a sudden the paint sprayer works, or all of a sudden they found the taping trowel when they were doing the sheetrock, or all of a sudden my schedule's bollocksed up and I'm not going to be here for a week. No problem, we'll be here. You said noon was good for you. We'll be here at noon and we'll finish up by the end of the day. So we can moment by moment script and change these things. The irony is we are moment by moment scripting and changing these things, except we're doing it mostly unconsciously, and it's kind of foobar the way it works out. Ask me, how I used to know. So play with that and realize that everyone is going through this and everything is changing. And it's not, do we change or not? That's not the free will choice. That's not the question. Do we step into the power of being a KACB and that creatorship? And we do it consciously, or do we, because we are so amazing, because we're not small, do we then gift ourselves in the shirt with wonderful, delicious, really spot-on ways that things crop up to let us integrate different pieces that we hadn't been heretofore paying attention to, that we hadn't been heretofore integrating, that we hadn't been heretofore seeing that it's no longer supported by the energies to play small. Enjoy the day and all the new meanings that December 25th brings to all. I love you.